Okay, we're ready.
Back to real estate and the world.
24, yeah.
24, exciting.
Yeah, we've had some interesting stuff this week. In the last 2 weeks, you did Rock the Market.
I did. I spoke at Rock the Market at the Hard Rock Hotel. It was our annual sort of premier event by the Association of Realtors. We had close to 2,000 people there.
Yeah, more than last year, right?
I think similar.
Okay.
They consciously didn't want to go higher than last year. I think we were pushing the bounds of what could be contained. It's the biggest event of the year. It's a great event. It's a really great event.
Yeah, and you know, I was watching it, but I was like, damn, she looks hot.
Oh, why, thank you.
You got
like the leather pants.
The leather,
I mean,
and like I said, you just need the whip. And then the outfit is
You got to keep the charts, keep their attention on the charts somehow.
Yeah.
And shifting migration patterns.
So what was your thesis this year?
So it's a continuation of the ongoing thesis that we're in the early days of a seismic shift in our country. The data that I update, well, primarily it's that we have data points that keep coming in that corroborate the economic shift in focus in the country. And as those data points keep coming in, I put them in the presentation. Also news articles that confirm the ongoing wealth and talent migration. There's tons of stuff. And I always have that Venn diagram I always talk about, identified years ago, and saying that we're in the middle of the Venn diagram, we're in a period of rapid change, and here's what's happening. And it is. Yeah. And along the lines of that thesis, it is still early days because these things do not reverse. That was one of the main points that I made this year, was I had charts showing how last year we had that shift where the 6 fastest growing southern states now account for more of national GDP than the Washington, D.C., New York, Boston corridor. Yeah. And then we had charts showing outflows of taxable income from certain states and inflows in another set of states. Wow. And those are very clear lines. Yeah. And why would it reverse? That's the question. Why would it go backwards?
I saw something I think you retweeted today that was something about the long lines of, for every household that moves out of Florida that has 200,000 or more income, 2 or 3 more move in.
Right.
It's like a really good ratio.
Correct. And we also have the highest number of high-earning millennials within that same sort of framework of high-value taxpayers. Yeah. We have the highest number of high-value young taxpayers, which is a good forward-looking metric. Yeah. So the data points keep coming in. It can also keep getting reflected in the action of our real estate markets, where the higher up we go in terms of price per square foot and just overall price, the more we're all cash, the more we're outperforming pre-COVID realities. Yeah. Because that's what's attracting the wealth and talent migration. And single family, of course, because we can't build more inventory vertically. Yeah. But it's exciting times. And that really is the main point, is why would it reverse? That's the thing that I really want people to get their heads around, is that the way that the 20th century was set up, you know, our capitals, like New York was established in the 20th century before the internet, right post World War II, it became the capital of the world. Yep. Post Bretton Woods, you know, before the internet, it's a 20th century construct, much like income taxes and much like the 5-hour work week. Yep. Those are all 20th century realities. And things are always shifting, there's always something else, and now life is reshaping. Oh, I also found data showing that the higher up you go in terms of income brackets, the more people modified their work around using the internet too. That was actually quantified, which makes sense, which is something I've been saying for a while, is that people with more money or higher paying jobs are more likely to avail themselves of remote work, and thus also more likely to be able to move, which is what we're seeing. Yeah, and that's the thing that we've both been saying for a while now, is that people who have upper mobility and money, the pandemic permanently reshaped the world for those people. Right. I think if you go down a couple income brackets, the world may have shifted for a while for them, but for the higher income and the upward mobility, it changed permanently. Agree. And so those people can live in New York or San Francisco or Miami or wherever they want. So they go, like you always say, along the path of least resistance. Yep. So they go places where it's tax friendly, good for their business, good, you know, whatever, it's good for their money. Exactly right. And that's happening at scale. Yeah. And those are things that also have huge implications for tax bases, because your top 1% of earners account for over 45% of tax revenue in high tax jurisdictions. Yeah. So all those things, one of my main points is to have people realize that momentum cycles are real forces. They don't just reverse and go away. They build, and all of a sudden it's like, you can't not recognize it. Well, I still think people think, even with the pandemic realignment, that Miami is still a flash in the pan. My sort of rebuttal to that is, it would take something worse than Andrew to like dampen Miami's ascension. Agree. It could happen, you know, anything can happen, but like it would take something on that magnitude, catastrophic. Yep. And at that point we're all just doomed anyways. So, correct. Yes, exactly right. People are like, oh, there's a flash in the pan, I think the market's gonna crash and whatever. I'm like, it would take either for the country to fall into an actual depression where no one has any money, even the wealthy people, or a catastrophic natural event. Those are the two
things that
And
could
that would
happen.
affect it.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
So.
I agree.
And we had a little field trip.
We went up to Fort Lauderdale
We braved 95 and did.
with a self-driving vehicle.
I use self-driving because 95 scares me even after 8 years.
But I can't drive. It's perfect.
Yeah, it was fun. So we went to see Andar.
Okay.
It was cool. It was right on Los Olas there. It's a branded project done by Pinnafer.
Yeah.
But it was cool because we went there. It was a yacht day. I was saying it was fun to feel wealthy for like a minute. I have people bringing me wine. I was like, this is the life. But anyways, we were there with people who were actually looking to buy. There was people looking at there. And the interesting thing about that project was that it was all, I would say, kind of waspy domestic buyers.
Yep.
Yeah, and this project is an ultra luxury project, and he said that the lowest was like $2 million.
It's not ultra luxury.
No, I'm saying that.
Oh.
Not like ultra luxury, but like the cheapest unit was $2 million.
I don't recall because they're just over 900 a square foot.
Okay.
So they're under 1,000 a square foot starting, and they had they're all pass through.
Okay, sorry, I'm spreading.
Because smaller units were 1,000, 2,000. No. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's a mid-tier luxury product. We'll call it that.
For Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
It's different than Miami, but it was interesting because all the buyers that were there were from Indiana and Chicago and Ohio.
Correct. Yes, 100% right.
They were all looking at buying it as like a vacation home or like retirement. It was just interesting to see a product outside Miami.
Yeah, it's a new product for the area too. The area doesn't really have that condo product. It's filling in now.
Yeah.
And they said that they had people who were empty nesters leaving their houses because it's the first of its type there.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's on Los Olas and everything to the east of it is like height restricted, so they have almost permanent
It's really nice.
views.
It was really quite nice. Brian goes, "Is this Casabella?"
Yeah, it has like the same like effect as Casabella.
Mr. Encyclopedia here of what every exterior looks like. It's wavy, like
it's like Casabella's cousin that took the short bus because it's like 20 stories shorter. Architectonica, they know what they're doing and they do it every time.
They ordered up that version.
I swear, I know Architectonica is like a logo icons or whatever, but I swear developers can just go to their headquarters, flip through like a catalog and be like, I want wavy balconies with a metal screened podium and in gray.
I mean, gets the job done. What's wrong with that?
And then you slap a branded name on it and watch the money roll in.
Watch the magic happen.
Yeah. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Developers in Miami here have the process down to like a science. They know what brings the buyers and they know what people are looking for. They want to see the branded name there. They want to see the rooftop pool with the palms and like it's very much down to a science. Mm-hmm. On that note, I'm always happy to see when there are developers who take it to the next level, like Kodo and Aston Martin, and also their new product that's happening over in Brickell that just got approved.
Yes.
Crescent Heights and Gale, they did a lot of effort on like the landscaping and the finishes.
Street activity. It's really well done.
Really well done.
I'll open.
There's like a fountain on the corner that has the coral limestone that's here in Miami, and it has like little water and lights and. Developers don't have to do that. I mean, look at most developers; they just give you a concrete sidewalk and. That's it. It's like a double-edged sword because a lot of times in Miami, developers can build by right. They can just build whatever they really want as long as it's in the codes. And they maximize that lot coverage and they bring the overhangs out to the edges and you end up with a box with concrete.
But yeah, 601 did a really great job. And the main, on the ground level, there's a huge space for an Italian restaurant. It's not even open yet. It's almost open, but it's going to activate that whole corner. Yeah. The cafecito off the sidewalk. And it's a very well done project.
And then inside there's like a hammam too.
Correct, that's correct. Yep, there's a hammam up there. There's a beautiful gym, the pool. I mean, it's a very, banquet spaces, office spaces, co-working.
And that is what people who have the money are looking for. I think they're looking for that little extra oomph.
Correct.
Because they can go to a certain developer and get the wavy balconies. But I think if I had that money, I'd be looking for someone that does have those details.
Yes, they did a great job. Yeah. It's a unique thing. You go there and you feel like you've gone to a place. It feels like it has substance. Yeah,
and it's that's the same thing that I feel about downtown versus Brickell. So especially My World Center. My World Center is new. It's only 7 years old, maybe at this point. And when you walk around it, you feel that it has a sense of place.
Yes, sense of place. That's a great way of putting it.
Sense of
That's
place.
Like presence. Like you feel like you're in a real place. Yeah.
And listen, I like Brickell for the amenities it provide, but when you walk around, it doesn't feel cohesive or...
All of it does not, correct.
Yeah, it was built in the last cycle when they were literally building as fast as they could. There was barely any sort of public benefit. Not public benefit, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah, civic mindedness.
They're like, here, we'll put a 60-story tower here. Screw the sidewalks.
Sidewalk.
So it's like, that's the difference. When you look at Brickell versus My World Center, like, My World Center has like trees and there's like water features and like, you've been to the square in West Palm Beach.
No.
No?
No.
It used to be called City Place.
I have not.
That was done.
Field trip. We have to go.
Yeah, Brightline trip.
That's right.
They did that a long time ago, but that is sort of, My World Center is sort of this decade version of that.
Okay.
Wide promenades and like trees and plants and like an actual thought behind it.
Yep.
So I like that. And yes, My World Center is very much still in progress. There are rough edges. There are stuff that's still not done.
Sure.
But even now, with it almost less than halfway done, you walk around it and it just I know people who have moved from Brickell to My World Center. Some good friends of mine, and they're like, wow, why didn't we do this earlier? And they loved Brickell. But when they got to a place that had a real urban sense of feel, a place.
And we'll see what ends up happening with the whole signature district around the new bridge too.
Yes.
There's a huge park plan there.
Yeah, that'll
fill in really nicely.
That'll be interesting because there's a lot of people with their hands in the pot there. Have the state, the city, and the county. Yep. So we'll see. I mean, I'll be happy if there's some grass under there and some nice sculptures. But then also the cool thing was when you move the bridge over, you're going to have acres of land that you can do stuff with.
That's right.
Because the bridge is moving over by like a block.
That's the plan, I think.
Yeah, so you have space that you didn't have before.
Yep.
And I'm excited about that. There's so much happening. I mean, once again, Crescent Heights is doing that. What we talked about before, they're doing
14.
that. Rock 14.
Or that in the signature district.
Yeah,
that's part of the whole plan.
Yeah, it's like on 14, so it's just a block north. They also own the land that's currently just to the south of the bridge, right behind Marquette. They own that. Who knows what they're going to do, but they own that as well. So I think you're going to see a big push for development in that area once the bridge is sort of in progress.
It's going to look entirely different in 5 years.
Yeah. I was on a tweet rampage last week I took my scooter down to South Brickell, and I was scootering around, and I was just looking at all these buildings, and I was, Surfside always sort of in the back of my head. And I was looking at all these buildings, everything sort of south of Southeast 15th Street in Brickell. And I was just looking at these buildings, and I was like,
oh, yes.
I was like, this is insane. These buildings are from the 70s and the 80s and the 60s even. And I know that they are eventually not going to pass whatever recertification.
Well, it's just not sustainable.
Yeah. I asked ChatGPT to sort of lay out the buildings. So they're building Una there. The building next to Una, guess what year it was built? Brickell Townhouse was built in 1963. Yep.
Una's almost done.
Yeah. And it's just, there's not one unit for sale.
In the 60s building?
Yeah.
How can that be?
I double checked. There was not one single unit for sale.
Interesting.
So either a developer has already wrangled it all together, or the assessments and costs don't make it, people are just not willing to buy something that old.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to start a series, I think, next week or two, that's going to be like going over buildings, the deeper context of buildings that need to go away, get redeveloped. People are already yelling at me about it because I know people who live in those buildings or own those buildings. And
it's obvious.
If you own there, you're potentially sitting on a jackpot. Potentially.
Correct. Best case scenario.
Yeah, and the worst case scenario is that you get a $100,000 assessment.
And you can't sell.
I saw a listing last week for some building, and it said, not Brickell Townhouse, another one, it said, there's a assessment, but the owner will pay it for 5 years or something.
That's normal.
Yeah, like they'll pay 5 years of the assessment. So many pieces and so much legality, but the clock is ticking. They have until December 31st to get things in line.
Good luck, everyone.
People are saying the Florida thing's going to convene a special whatever you call the lawmaking sessions for the state. And I mean, yes, they can, but there's not much that
They could just buy them more time.
Buy them time.
Not much.
No, like
it's not going to change the reality.
Yeah.
They don't want the catastrophic influx all at once, so you can spread it out, maybe do those things, but you're still appeasing. You're not solving.
So you're just kicking the can down the road.
Oh, yes. I told you that the BBC asked me if it was global warming. I did this whole podcast interview with the BBC after it. I said, global warming? I said, no. And then it came to me that it was a trifecta of negligence, incompetence, and corruption. And I think that's what it is. All cases, negligence, incompetence, and corruption.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen next year with older condos. I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks now. Like, what would you say the percentages of older condos in the market right now are for the whole market? Do you know that?
So there's an ISG report that's quoted a lot on this topic, and they had something like 90% are old. But when they do this, they take out condo hotel units, they take out other things, so they're only selecting for traditional condos, which is fair. At least 70.
I think you had a bar chart on your
correct.
talk.
It's a high percentage. Again, there's wiggle area depending how you define things, but it's definitely high, which makes sense. And then also, even without the existence or the incoming pressure of this law change, the people who are moving to us domestically from high-tax jurisdictions, they're not looking to buy old stuff anyway.
No.
Even if it didn't have this problem coming, that's not the product they're buying. They're coming from areas that are already more expensive than Miami. Yeah. They're coming with incomes, and they're looking for a nice product. Like, we know this. The prime location, high price per square foot product this year in almost every market segment has sold more Q2 this year than last year, and in some cases hit a record Q2. So they're not looking for old stuff. They never were. Yeah. So the old stuff is not benefiting from them. And now the old stuff is hit with this extra burden of this law change. They're just in trouble.
Yeah, and I don't think the transplants were interested in Brickell Townhouse.
No, and I said to the BBC back then, the BBC asked me, well, do you think this will imperil, because that was a few years ago, and it was the early days of this wealth and talent migration, and the BBC asked me, will this disaster sort of stall or impede the progress of Miami's real estate markets? And I said no, because at the time, we weren't getting the foreign buyers, because they physically still weren't really coming, right? So I said that's an important distinction, because the Latin American buyer didn't all of a sudden decide they didn't want Miami. It was just COVID. They didn't come. Yeah. So that surge that we had at the time is attributed almost entirely to domestic migration. And I told the BBC, I said no, because our wealth migrants are not looking for old product. And I said years ago, I said, if anything, this will just sharpen the divide between new and old. And it's a bifurcated market, and that's exactly how it's playing out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I just saw also last week an article about Biscayne 21. And it was really interesting because I swear, Anna, some of those owners are Delulu. As Gen Z says, they're Delulu.
My new word for the day, Delulu.
Yeah, but it was an article of an older woman. I'm guessing probably 60s or 70s. And she's one of the owners that took 2 roads to court for this. So I've talked about it before, but to catch everyone up, Biscayne 21's about 3 blocks that way. It's a 1970s or 60s building, past its expiration date, on a prime piece of land. And it's 2 roads bought it. They're going to put an addition branded residence there, and then 2 more towers, which unknown names. Anyways, they bought it. Apparently there were some shenanigans, and they bought enough units, and then they lowered that percentage to 80. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be. I just know that happened. They started demolition, and then the owners who were left, which is like 4 of them, were like, And so they took 2 roads to court, to a Florida court, and the judge upheld whatever their complaint was. So now, Biscayne 21 is literally over there, half demolished, like gutted. The top 4 floors are demolished. This article with this lady was sitting in front of it, and she's like, I'm moving back into this building.
Where?
What? The building has not had air conditioning or services in almost a year now.
It's done, lady. The building's gone.
It's done. Like, and what I was saying is, name your overinflated price, and let's move on. That's what I say to her. Not out of meanness or bitchiness, just like, they'll pay it. Just move on. And you might, if you fight, you might actually get less, because they're going to get the Florida Supreme Court, and I'm 90% sure the Supreme Court will be like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're playing a game, I think, there that isn't going to pay off. Yes. And it's like, I don't have a picture of the building here, but I wish you could see it. Like, literally the 4 top floors are down to the studs or the concrete.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. Come on back home.
Come back home.
It's a little unrealistic. There really is.
Because they want to build, I learned yesterday it was called Vela. That's what it's called. It's the little land next to Cité 21.
Okay.
They want to build like a 50-story like sort of Aston Martin-y type, like on a little tiny land. And once again, the former HOA board at Cité 21 or 2001 did some sort of shenanigans with the developer and like transferred them development units because the Cité 2021 is a huge piece of land. So they sold development rights to those people without a vote from the homeowners.
Oh.
However, the people who want to build Vela can build it by right because they designed it so it's like literally no variations. So now they're in negotiations with the new Cité 2001 people to try and make it more. It's drama, and they could start building it tomorrow if they wanted, by right. But they're being nice and talking to the people there.
Exciting.
All the drama. This is why I do this podcast, because like, where else does this happen? Like,
on a positive market note, there was a Financial Times article this week saying that Miami is the bright spot in the country's office market. That Brickell office rents an all-time.
It said Brickell office lease.
Right.
And that was.
It said we're one of the bright spots in the country's real estate.
Yeah.
Office real estate.
It was a Brazilian bank, and they leased 26,000 square feet at 830 Brickell.
Done yet. 830 Brickell is Ken Griffin's tower.
It's now 100% leased.
Amazing.
It'll be
so much for the naysayer alarmist articles.
I think that really says something, because even as companies have been pushing back to the office and so forth, we're leasing up a trophy building that is going for Manhattan prices.
Well, many other cities across the nation are at vacancies far exceeding their pre-COVID realities.
Yeah,
and we're leasing at prices per square foot that would have been fiction 10 years ago, like insane fiction.
Yeah.
No one would have believed it.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think people have a very limited memory, especially when it comes to Miami.
Very limited.
So you guys have to remember that pre-COVID, Miami had what was classically called a reverse downtown. In most downtowns, people commute to those downtowns to work. In Miami, it's the opposite. Everyone lived downtown and commuted out to like Doral, reverse downtown. During COVID, when everyone moved here, we could fill up. We had lots of vacancy. We filled up a lot, and now everyone who sort of brought the money is now looking like they want to live and work in the same place.
Yep, exactly right.
That's the thing.
Exactly right.
And that's why Ken Griffin is building his new tower on Brickell Bay, because it's right by the roads, Coconut Grove, so his executives can live there and commute just a couple miles.
Live by the schools, yep.
Yeah, so.
Build more schools, I don't know.
People are complaining because all the hedge funds, like.
It's a problem with the schools.
They bought out the schools for years. They paid the money to like.
Oh, I know. I have friends who have tried to pay schools. I know.
Really?
Yes. It's like New York all over again.
I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Wow.
I mean, New York private. I went to a New York City private school from a very young age, but I was very young, so I don't recall. But there are like books written on the dramas about New York private schools. It's coming here.
Wow.
I don't even like school. I don't agree with sending children to school.
I was homeschooled, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
My mom is wonderful. Great appreciation for Ryan's mom.
Yeah, my mom was. Homeschooling was one step above illegal.
Right.
Moms were going to jail.
Your mom is so awesome.
For homeschooling their kids.
Yeah.
And my mom was very much a pioneer. She homeschooled all 4 of us kids.
That's awesome.
And she's a saint, because I couldn't.
You?
I am good at many things. Being a teacher and having patience is not one of them. I can't teach anyone anything. Like, I'll just do it.
I get into it.
I'll do it for you. Out of the way.
Interesting. I kind of get into professor mode.
Nice.
My professor mode. I like teaching jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I get into that too. But your mom's amazing.
Oh, my mom's amazing, and I don't know. School is, I wasn't for college. I tried. I did it for 2 semesters.
I went to college despite myself. No, it's the honest truth. I really hated school, and I was just good at it, and I tried to do as little as possible. But consciously, I did as little as possible. Like, I took my SATs cold. I took my AP exams cold. I did as little as I resented the usage of my time on those endeavors. Wow. And I hated it. And I stand by I said it was prison for children. I said, can I just take a test and be done with this? Why am I wasting my time? Like, I hated it. And I felt so strongly that it was a complete waste of my time. And I was right. In retrospect, I was completely correct.
I mean...
school pretends, first of all, school pretends to teach you what to think. Yeah. But it doesn't really, because...
It teaches you how to take tests.
Yeah.
That's what it teaches you how to do. And
whatever it is teaching you, it's not, like, designed for you. And I found it incredibly boring and a complete waste of my time. Okay, so they pretend to teach you what to think, but school does not even endeavor to teach you how to think, and how to think is the most important thing. So the whole thing to me was a contrived waste of time. So I did as little as possible, and I got into school despite myself.
Yeah, for me it was when I went to college, I liked the classes that were relevant to whatever I was studying, the interesting stuff. My brain could not handle the generalized education. It just wouldn't. I'd go to these classes that were like the gen ed, and I just was like,
I see.
I just stopped showing up.
I really have one or two professors who I fondly remember as being kind of like mind-opening, because learning how to think is the most important thing.
Yes.
So I had one professor, I'm sure he's passed away now, because I was probably, and he was in his 80s. And that was a long time ago, I'm old. So he was in his 80s back then. And there was a class that was held at the physics building at Columbia, Pupin Hall. Remember, I was the only girl and the youngest person. It was like me and 7 or 6 other people. It was tiny because he scared people.
Yeah. And
it was a class on, what it was called. It was basically a whole bunch of tensor calculus. It was like space-time physics, modern geometry, manifold physics, whatever. And so he was one of the seminal figures of 20th century special relativity theory. The guy worked with Jonathan Wheeler, whatever. He was cool. He was a genius. And I remember he would have these things there, and he would just pull his stuff from the board, and then he would just step away and he would say, "Look at this, everyone, how beautiful it is."
Beautiful minds.
Test that he gave, nobody ever broke their age. And
their age?
like, you never scored higher. No one ever scored higher than their age out of 100, and no one. And I realized, like, to him, like, how boring. Why would he give you something that had an answer?
Oh, got it.
Like, that's just, what does he want you to repeat what he said? Like, that's stupid. So he gave these things, and he wanted to see what you could think of.
Okay.
Like, it was fantastic. It was just that man, and things like, but there's like, all the time I wasted at school, that's all I got. It's like 2 people like that. I got that, and that was at Columbia. So I got like one crazy genius like that. The rest of it was an abject waste of time.
My grand accomplishment at school was I got a tenured professor suspended.
Oh, good job.
Yes.
Wow.
She was an English writing thing, and she was grading the stuff based on her worldview, like extremely. Oh. And half the class basically failed. And we took all our stuff to the dean, and we're like, Anna's saying sponsor us. Hi, Celsius.
Sponsor our anti-school agenda here. No, I'm very pro-learning, to be clear. It's just that the school structure, like you're just saying, it's just, you're so beholden to these people in the classroom, and most of them are not inspiring people.
Well, I think school was designed for
workers,
an average, and NPC.
Mediocrity.
And so if you're any sort of neurospicy, which
that's not going to work
with most of us, that most of us are, it's just, it doesn't, if you don't fit into the mold, they're like, we don't know what to do with you.
They don't, I know.
That's why my mom homeschooled me, because she saw that I was going to be.
She told me.
I was going to be neurodivergent at an early age. And she was like, you would die in school.
I love your mom.
Yeah. I love her too.
Hi, Ryan.
I have a project I want to talk about, or 2 projects I want to talk about, because it's important for the upcoming election.
Okay.
So, Watson Island.
Yep.
On the Causeway. Yep. There are 2 projects happening there, one on the north side and one on the south side. The one on the north side is Jungle Island redevelopment.
Yeah.
They were going to originally put a hotel there and expand Jungle Island and then get rid of all the animals and all that. Anyways, they came back to the drawing board with a different idea. They want to put condos on a piece of it, on actually a very small piece of it, and then return most of it to a park, public available park. Not Jungle Island, they got to pay to, like an actual park. That's the north side. On the south side, you have the same developers who did My World Center. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, I was really.
The family that did My World Center. So you have 2 projects there. They're both waterfront, and they both want to do the same thing. They want to put condos up and put a big chunk of the land back to a park. I am very much in favor of this. I think it's something that people should vote yes on, because I love Miami, but one thing it is not good at is it's not good at managing prime city-owned land. It's just not. Like, we're not good at it, and the highest and best use of Watson Island is not a theme park and a marina. Not the highest and best use. So I would say vote yes on both of them. There's 2 separate ballot items. I don't know what the numbers of them are, but it would provide a lot of park space in the middle of the bay for public use.
Okay. Makes
so
sense.
that is my endorsement for that. I don't get involved in politics a lot, but I think that would make a very good.
Okay.
And then also, it's eventually on the path of whatever the Bay Link turns into. So you would have a nice park to go there. Another interesting project, it's not on the ballot, but the empty land over here on 17th Street by Mello Group is finally moving through permitting, which I'm very excited about. It's like 1,100 units. I've always called this area over here in Biscayne sort of the dead zone, the Biscayne dead zone, because it's been empty for like 40 years. There's nothing been there. So I'm very excited that that is sort of under development. What else interesting? Any interesting projects you had that you've come across?
Off the top of my head, no. I think we
Oh, I have some fun, not really update, but so Legacy Maya World Center, they had to pause recently, well not recently, but a few months ago because they put plumbing or something in the wrong spot. Like they started building, they got to the 16th floor and then realized that stuff
Did they
was
switch contractors halfway through or something?
Something happened and they changed designs and they got to the 16th floor and they said if they would have gotten any higher than that, it would have been a untenable project because they would have to rip it all out and start over again. Apparently so it's been paused for like 4 months now. However, I am hearing that there is drama behind the scenes. They have a lot of construction liens.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like
Yeah, there's a lot of construction liens. And I think, I don't have any thing of this, but I think the crane got repoed yesterday. Or whatever happens when they don't
when you hear stuff like halfway through at some point that the plumbing's all wrong, there's a construction issue going on, and that makes sense. I don't have any insights, but it usually sounds like...
I don't have any insights besides the random DMs I get from anonymous people, but there's definitely drama. The Legacy has been a drama project since the day they've switched contractors like 3 times, and they also bought the land next to them, so they were going to expand the project. That's what the drama is. They didn't change the design. I don't know. But anyways, I think the crane got repoed or whatever happens.
That's exciting.
Whatever happens when you don't pay your bill for a crane. So that's fun. And yeah, that's why I love that's why I do this podcast, because this stuff doesn't happen.
Who repos cranes? That's great.
Did we talk about the 90 high rises in the last one, or did that come out? Or did that come out later?
Oh, I think it came out now. That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a great infographic that Ryan shared showing that the Miami area has more high-rise under construction than all of California.
We have 90, and Miami has 90. California in total, the West Coast in total, has like 40.
That's crazy.
In total.
Wow.
You got to remember.
If that's not a sign of where the growth is going, I don't know what is.
I mean, and you have to remember the population on the West Coast is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, like, LA County, I think, is like...
who would build there? They keep changing tenant laws, all these things, and...
Speaking of laws, they saw that Austin thing I sent you.
Yes.
It's like their fees for development in Austin are going up
some enormous amount.
Like, huge amounts.
And their values have already tanked. Austin's in trouble.
I was like, what? How did... Yeah. Yeah, it's
Good job, West Coast. Good job, Austin.
I'm not very good at math. I say it all the time, but like when I see things like that, and also there's another one where about the building luxury housing and it bringing.
Oh God, that politician in New York.
Yes.
There was a New York politician. He said that adding inventory will put... I had to read it a few times.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, huh? Okay? What? Okay, what happened here? He said that adding inventory would put forward pressure.
Upward pressure.
Upward pressure, he said, on pricing.
Yes.
I said, what?
Huh?
How? And this is an example of ivory tower politics and bureaucrats decreeing how business will be with impunity.
Yeah, the funny thing is that was not the most insane part of that politician. We talked this last week. He denied the project. That was like the secondary part. The first part is because it would cast a shadow on a park for like 3 hours.
Yes.
That was the main reason. The upward pressure.
Upward pressure that extra supply would put on inventory.
What?
It's insane.
It's simple math. Like, I don't know. I feel like we need like another segment. It's like just like Miami math, like my real estate math, because it's so like, I don't know.
Well, we keep seeing the headlines of, you saw something, some guys saying, market crashing, market crashing, market crashing.
Yes.
We keep getting those headlines. Well, July
I always send you them.
Yeah, July closed out, and boys and girls, it's not crashing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have any previews of that?
I do, in fact. So July closed out, so single-family median pricing in Miami-Dade County hit another all-time high. It's just gone straight up. It's up both month over month, year over year, and at an all-time high. Inventory remains over 40%, or is it 38 or 40% below pre-COVID? It is up year over year in general, which is fine because inventory dropped so much, but we're still far below pre-COVID levels. And then lower price inventory is just disappearing. And one thing, the trend continues. Below $500,000 now, we have fewer than 500 listings in Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
And there used to be over
less than 500?
Yes, there used to be over 3,500. And then for condos, we're up a tiny bit month over month, kind of flat year over year. The condo market is like doing this little type of thing, which is not a crash at all. It just stopped going up.
Yeah, and we also have the older.
That's what I'm saying, because the whole market's in there. Exactly right. Yeah. So there's no, and even for the whole condo market, even accounting for that, in the entire, all of inventory is still over 30% below where it was pre-COVID. Wow. So where's the disaster? I don't see it. It just stopped going straight up.
And every single week I send you screenshots.
Oh, it's like they're like disaster, market's bursting. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like inventory's below pre-COVID, we're heavy cash, high equity. Like,
I sent you the guy that always is doom and glooming, the reventure guy.
That guy. Yeah. That's his whole shtick.
Yeah, his whole shtick.
It's like clickbait. It's the sky is falling. It's crashing. It's this. It's that. Okay, first of all, when we have crashes, when markets crash, there's a bubble and you have this rapid. Okay, what causes a rapid sort of collapse is you almost always irresponsible usage of cheap debt. And then what happens is that the underlying asset can no longer service the debt and it rapidly crumbles and falls.
Yep.
So we don't even have that scenario. This market has not pushed up by debt. There were no liar loans in this market, and it's a heavy cash market. What's the bubble? There's no bubble. And inventory, it's crazy talk.
You're not seeing repossessions.
No.
Go like high.
It's a very small percentage of ARMs actually.
Yeah.
It's not that reality. And then inventory is below where it was pre-COVID. Prices are not crashing at all, especially single family. Like, what are they talking about? Well, it's so bizarre.
It gets the clicks every time. And and there's people that's their whole stick is to be doom and gloom.
I know. And it appealed to other people who like that. Those people will click. And
I have to think sometimes, like, do they want to crash so they can buy something? Like,
No. They just like to see it. Most of them.
I guess. But anyways, y'all be safe out there this weekend. It's going to be a lot of rain and the tropical storm somewhere out there. So, but yeah, thank you for watching again. I had fun this time.
Super fun.
It was great. So yeah, stay dry out there.
Everyone, thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Ciao.